Good morning, everyone. I want to update Angelenos on 3 key areas. 1, preparing for the upcoming winds, bringing Angelenos home, and rebuilding and recovery. So first, the winds. Everyone needs to be on high alert. The National Weather Service has declared a particularly dangerous situation, the most urgent warning for wind and fire danger. Los Angeles and partner firefighters are pre-deployed, and we asked Angelenos to be prepared in case they need to evacuate. And as we have said, each day we've done these announcements. If you're in an area where you have a warning, please be prepared to evacuate. And obviously, if you are under evacuation orders, please do not attempt to return. Winds could kick up dust and ash in the surrounding areas of the burn site and beyond, so you can visit lacity.gov about safe ways to ensure that you are protecting yourself and your loved ones outside. Second, bringing Angelenos home. I've met with survivors over the last several days, and the number one question is, when can I get back to my property? So let me tell you, there is nothing that we will not do to make sure that you are able to return safely. So here is where we are. There is limited reentry for residents who have been evacuated. There is a portal to check if your neighborhood is open for reentry, which can be found at lacity.gov. But to get through checkpoints, you're going to need photo ID with your name and address on it. In the Palisades area, there have recently been allowed reentry in certain areas. LA Sanitation will be operating an additional residential curbside pickup today in advance of the regularly scheduled pickup on Tuesday. But please avoid disposing of ash, hazardous waste, and burnt debris in bins. Fire bins have been removed in a phased-out approach beginning with the U.S. EPA. Reentry is based on safety. For those who cannot yet visit your properties, it's because firefighters are still at work to prevent fires, to prevent flare-ups. There are hazardous materials being dealt with. Utility repairs are underway, or there is other emergency work that makes it unsafe to be in the area. So note as well, there is still a do not drink order in the 90272 zip code and some surrounding areas. Third, the recovery. First, the city's one-stop disaster recovery center at Pico and Westwood is open every day from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and it's where you can find an array of services on every level of government. You can replace documents right on the spot, and you can receive resources. Our Chief Recovery Officer, Steve Soberoff, has hit the ground running in leading the first phase of the recovery, and we'll have more updates about his work and our road to recovery later this week. To the people of the Palisades, the rebuild we know is going to take some time, but we will be alongside of you every step of the way. Angelenos, it is hopeful that we are about 48 hours away from turning the page on this particular emergency. But until then, we're going to do everything we can to keep you safe. But please make sure if you are in an area where you are asked to leave, please cooperate. That is the way we keep all Angelenos safe. And with that, let me bring up our fire chief, Chief Crowley.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Just a real important update for everybody. An extreme wind event is upon us, peaking Monday night into Tuesday morning with wind gusts of 60 to 80 miles an hour over the Los Angeles County area. Local gusts in the mountains may reach up to 100 miles per hour at the peak of this wind event. As this is the third significant wind event of the year, and we're very early into this year, the vegetation is critically dry with relative humidity nearly 10%. This means that if it is ignited, extreme fire weather and behavior is probable. So everyone here urges the community to stay alert. To prepare for these winds, the LAFD has deployed all available resources and strategically positioned fire patrols, fire engines in the high-risk areas across the city of Los Angeles. We have issued a red flag parking restrictions and is in specific designated places to allow for rapid response in our hillside communities. We're also strategically managing our emergency operations to ensure a rapid response to all new fires and anything that's anticipated with our increased call volume within the entire city of Los Angeles. In addition to this robust resources deployment of the LAFD, our regional and state partners have pre-positioned fire engines and aircrafts across Southern California to ensure a swift response to any fires in the area. Now remember, this is very, very important. Flying embers from a wildfire can destroy homes for over a mile away. Taking the necessary measures to prepare your home can help increase the chance of survival when a wildfire strikes. Please make sure that you can clear all your brush within 200 feet of your home. And for more information, visit lafd.org/wildfire. I'll now provide just a brief update on the Palisades fire. The fire remains at 23,713 acres with 59% containment. Damage assessments are ongoing, and as of today, there have been 6,051 structures destroyed. There are currently 5,125 personnel assigned to this incident, and repopulation efforts continue. Now, I urge everyone to stay alert as the danger has not yet passed. Please follow all evacuation warnings and orders without delay and prioritize your safety. I'd like to take just a moment to thank our entire community for your continued support and readiness. Thank you to all of our first responders, everybody that's been involved in all of these incidents, not only in the city of LA, but in the county and Southern California. And I tell you, everybody will continue to work very, very hard and tirelessly. We remain fully committed to ensuring public safety. Thank you. I would now like to introduce our police chief, Jim McDonnell.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. I'd like to provide just a few comments on the red flag warning and then an update on LAPD resources dedicated to the Palisades fire area. As the LAPD and our partner agencies continue to repopulate evacuated residents, I want to remind those returning to their homes and everyone in the city of Los Angeles that we're entering into another period of strong Santa Ana winds, creating another particularly dangerous situation. I want to ask all of you to please listen to all notifications regarding these conditions and prepare evacuation plans in advance instead of waiting to receive the call to leave. The difference could be life or death. If you receive a warning, please leave. Do not wait for a mandatory evacuation order. If mandatory evacuation order is issued, please cooperate with law enforcement who are there to assist you to evacuate quickly and safely. During the period, we want to do our absolute best to ensure that the events of the past 2 weeks do not repeat themselves. Currently, all mandatory evacuation orders have been lifted except in the fire-burned areas. In this area, the curfew remains in effect from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., so I ask you please stay out of those areas. If you see something or someone suspicious, please call 911. All of you are our best set of eyes that we could have, helping to identify trouble before it starts or to be able to get on it right away to prevent further damage. Our deployment, we remain committed to protecting lives and keeping our public safe. This includes areas that remain evacuated and those areas that are vulnerable during the repopulation phase. We're deploying resources to conduct extra patrols in areas prone to fire danger throughout the city. For the upcoming 24-hour period, we will continue heavy deployment to the impacted areas with support from the Los Angeles Airport Police, Port Police, California Highway Patrol, and the National Guard. In closing, I want all of you to know that as we enter this next dangerous period of high winds, that the LAPD will be doing everything possible to keep you and our communities safe. I'll now pass it back to Mayor Bass for any questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Yes.
Mayor Bass, Kevin Isbeck from ABC 7. You know the city received some criticism about preparations for January 7th. So how do the preparations for this PDS compare to that PDS? Have there been any lessons learned? Is there more man and woman power going into this PDS?
Yes, I believe that there is, and I believe that we will be very prepared for what the worst possible case scenario over the next couple of days, and then hopefully we won't get there at all. Thank you.
Walk us through some of the specifics in terms of what is different this go around.
Well, I mean, I will absolutely bring up the police chief, the fire chief to do that as well. But in terms of the deployment and the pre-deployment, that is all in place, as she said in her beginning comments. And I think that that has us well positioned to deal with any fires that might break out. Thank you. Yes.
Can you explain exactly where they are pre-deploying and also why they're taking these dramatic measures this week when they didn't ahead of January 7th in terms of the fire trucks and the engines?
Sure. Chief? Sure.
So I want to start with your specific question, and that is what is different today than it was 14 days ago on January 7th. So from our lens, we're looking at it from, yes, we have extensive and extreme winds. Santa Anas are here. Over the past 2 weeks, and here we are, the third wind event that dries out the fuel, it dries out the vegetation, and there's no time for that vegetation to take any moisture in. So that's a concern. So you look at where we were compared to the 7th to now, additional resources are in the region from the federal level. In fact, I'm aware of additional super scoopers that are here ready to serve us, standing by, in addition to everything that is pre-deployed within the area in the region in case a fire breaks out. And that's just on the federal, the state, and local level. So to focus back on what the difference is, the additional resources are here from the pre-deployment within the LAFD side. The system has been working in regard to the pre-weather conferences that we have, the high-level discussions that we have that occurred on the 7th compared to where we are now. And yes, we have pre-deployed and augmented additional resources compared to then. But that explanation is exactly what I just expressed, was this 14-day third wind event with also resource deployment of what's still working at the Palisades fire, the 5,000 additional personnel on top of the LAFD 25 engines that are still assigned there. So that it also comes into account of how we make our decisions of where and how we're going to pre-deploy. And that's what went into the decisions prior to the 7th as well as today.
And the two questions I asked about well, specifically where are the engines, the extra trucks?
Sure.
I can give you that. And we can give you a full list as well of where we're pre-deploying. And so we're augmenting and pre-deploying. The augmenting piece, I don't want to get too technical, but is where we know that we have additional resources that are still assigned to the Palisades. We augment with those engines. In fact, we have 25 engines, like I said, that are still staffed by LAFD in the Palisades. The pre-deployment, we use tactical task forces. Those are 3 engines. Those are located throughout the city. They're located at Fire Station 77, Fire Station 84, Fire Station 59, Fire Station 82, and we also have additional strike teams that are pre-deployed, but we can get you the exact locations of where they are located right now, today, pre-deployed, augmented, and that was our game plan to prepare and also lean on our additional resources that are here in the region.
Just to follow up, can you define augmentation versus pre-deployment, just to make sure we are all on the same page with that?
Sure. So the augmentation is where we utilize our additional field personnel from the LAFD specifically, where if we have, think about where we have engines that are already at the Palisades, those are physically assigned to that area. We utilize other engines that, and that's what we've been talking about, where those 40 engines that are always married up with our trucks. We'll add additional personnel to that, and that's that augmentation to almost like backfill where those other 20 engines, plus there's a Cal OES engine that are assigned to the Palisades. So the augmentation is to also assist us not only to lean forward, to ensure that we have properly pre-positioned, and so that's just extra personnel that will fill in for those other engines. The pre-deployment is very, very thoughtful and strategic, where, again, think about how large the city is in regard to where we have brush, where we have wildland, and where a fire may ignite within the city. So there's a lot of thought and decisions that have to come into play as to where we can properly place them so they can be utilized the here and now. And on top of that, I think it's really important that also everybody understands is our fire department is also still responding to those 911 calls in the time of need, and we're extremely busy in the city. That is our job, to ensure that we're providing that 911 service ongoing on top of pre-deploying, augmenting, and still responding to the Palisades fire.
So last week, LAFD sent out a press release showing where everyone was pre-deployed on the 7th. And it added up to 122 firefighters. Can you give us a sense today of how many firefighters are pre-deployed and part of this augmented plan? Just kind of see how it compares to the 122.
Sure. Yes. I actually do have those numbers, and we'd be happy to push this information out for a side-by-side comparison. Like you said, it was 122 or so personnel on the 7th. It was 15, like we talked about, augmented engines and 14 pre-deployed. Today, we have 64 augmented and 30 pre-deployed. And we'll give you the whole who and what and those types of resources, again, to focus on what is the difference, and that's your question, of where we were on prior to the Palisades and where we are now. Now, knowing what we know with the Palisades and our pre-deployment, the system that we follow, that's the first question that you asked. The second one, again, is the 14 days of this third wind event. And where we are as a city to ensure that we can augment and pre-deploy as many resources that we can. That's the difference between the two pre-deployments and augmentations. Thank you.
Mayor, good morning. President, well, he'll be President Trump in 10 minutes or so. President Trump has said he'll be here Friday. Do you plan to be with him?
Absolutely. I joined in the invitation to the president along with the governor and Catherine Barger, so it's certainly my hope to meet with him. I know it's going to be a quick visit. I'll say welcome to Los Angeles and immediately go into what we're facing right now and how we hope to continue the federal partnership, which we already have. So it's not like things cut off from one day to the next. You know, the FEMA representatives that we have here, Army Corps of Engineers, I mean, that has continued. And, you know, it is my hope that he will be very supportive.
You know, he said yesterday from Washington, D.C., to his supporters in a rally, that he'd bring the best builders to Los Angeles, that he was committed to kind of spearheading this effort. Is kind of the theme I took away from hearing what he said.
No, but I'm
telling you stuff you already know, but that was a theme that I got. So I mentioned that only to ask you what your thinking is on recovery.
Well, first of all, you know, we kicked off and announced our Chief Recovery Officer on Friday. We are underway in terms of what we need to do to get people back home and to get their houses rebuilt as quick as possible. And again, I think the invitation to the president is going to be, please come and join in. If he wants to bring the best builders, that's great. But let's see. I'm not going to assume one way or another. And there are also other members of his administration that I've mentioned before that I served with in Congress, and so beginning the outreach to them and my other former colleagues on the Hill, I think we have to move forward and not anticipate that there's going to be a negative interaction.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. LAPD question.
Oh, go ahead.
You know, I'm looking at a story about Tracy Park. She's sort of been at the epicenter of this. It's unprecedented for a city council person to have to juggle what she's juggling. Is there anything that you can tell me about, what you've seen her do or her reaction to all of this?
Well, from the time we were both sworn in, Councilwoman Park and I have a great relationship and have been working together to make sure that the area that was hit the hardest in the city are all of her constituents. And so I think that she's playing the very appropriate role, but I think that's the role she was playing before the fires. Where we've worked most closely together is on the situation of the unhoused people in her district, and I think she began like that from day one. So I'm not surprised to see her leadership in this area at all.
With the amount of officers, LAPD officers, that are in the Palisades right now, is that affecting other divisions? I'm hearing from sources answering radio calls is just one after another, and a lot of these guys are just burnt out.
Well, listen, the issue of LAPD officers, we know we need to have many more officers, period. And we're certainly working on that. And I know the officers are working outside of their normal capacity. I'm going to bring up the chief in a second, obviously. But there is also the mutual aid that we've received from other agencies, as well as the governor offering additional support from the National Guard and the California Highway Patrol.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. LAPD remains on full tactical alert, and that allows us to manage our resources as well as we can, routinely answering calls of major importance. And so we'll get to the other calls later for more of the quality of life stuff as we move forward. But right now our focus is to be able to deliver calls for crimes of violence and significant calls, and we're able to do that at this point. But you're right, the fatigue factor is something that as any incident like this continues to go on, it's something we have to deal with. So we're doing that, I think, at this point very effectively. Thank you.
And I've also got a report this morning of a lot of their laptops being down in their cars, like a large majority. Do we know what that is?
Yeah, there was an issue this morning with the internet within the organization that is being worked on. I think we're very close to resolution on that, but that was something that went department-wide.